Guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great Friday evening as we go on the weekend. So, got out of Captain America Winter Soldier. We're going to review it today. Yes, your eyes don't deceive you. I'm saying that this is the best Marvel film of all time. How did I come to such a conclusion, right? So, as we well know, the Captain America Brave New World has been under a lot of scrutiny, right? It's gotten a lot of bad press. It's a DEI Captain America. The biggest critics have been on this film, but it's ranked number 34 on the list of worst to best Marvel films. But I'm gonna propose something different here, guys. I'm going to ask you to watch this video in its entirety so you can understand how I come to this conclusion that Captain America Brave New World is the best Marvel film out there, right? And it's a simple reason why that you're going to understand. And that is, if you get down to number one, right? And I pretty much agree with this list. But if you get down to number one, it's no surprise to me that one of my favorite superhero movies of all time is number one. And that's Captain America Winter Soldier, right? They did that right, putting that film there. It stars Robert Redford. You got the Hollywood heavyweights in there. Fight Against Hydra. Well done film, right? Spy espionage film. Not really. This could be a movie that's not even considered a superhero film, right? But that's where I have to draw the line on fairness of rating a Marvel superhero film against a film that this grounded, unbelievably grounded. I think it's a bit unfair to put it in the ratings against these other fantastical films with gods walking around and so on, right? So why does Brave New World take up the slack where Winter Soldier fails, right? Much like Winter Soldier, these films are almost identical. Captain America Brave New World has its heavy hitters. It has Harrison Ford, Charles Lumbly, I think his name is, right? A great actor. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. Playing the first Captain America. The acting is top notch. The pacing is good. The action is good, right? But where it goes a mile further than Captain America Winter Soldier is it does have those fantastical elements in it whilst being grounded, right? Very difficult to do, because when you bring a superhero film to live action, there's something at the core of us, I think, that want to implement this into what it would be like if these figures existed in the real world. There is something in us, I think, that naturally does that, because we're looking at everything looks real. Where do these guys fit in, right? And so anytime you try to do that with a Marvel film, right, you get that goofiness a lot of people talk about. And I think that's why Captain America Winter Soldier is number one, because it doesn't have any goofiness, right? It's so grounded. But at the same time, like The Dark Knight, like this area of film, it's easier to do these type of movies, guys, because you don't have the fantastical. And so I think Captain America Brave New World balances that out when they introduced the Red Hulk. Now, a lot of people were saying he wasn't in the movie very long, that it was only maybe about 4 or 5 minutes. It actually was about 7 minutes. And I could tell you this, it felt like about 20 or 30 minutes. There was nothing wrong with that timing. I felt everything else with the film was on par. Now, again, I believe this film was treated unfairly because it got caught up in a political climate of today where I don't believe we're getting fair criticism and reviews from our biggest channels out there, even our biggest movie critics, as you can see by the what they're posting, what the critics are posting, which this movie doesn't deserve this. This movie is way better than that, what was being posted. And I think it's something up where it's not fair, because nobody's coming to these. The average person coming out of this movie, and I've watched many of them, they aren't saying this is a bad movie. Now think about that. They got this movie ranked as one of the worst movies in Marvel history of all time. It's number 34. It's only 35 Marvel movies. And to say Captain America Brave New World is amongst them, but you got like these. So I didn't like Thor Ragnarok was okay to me, but there's a lot of Thor movies in the Thor movies that are bad movies. Endgame, I wasn't a big fan of Endgame. I was a big fan of Captain America Civil War. I could have easily see that being number 2 or 3. Big fan of that movie. But guys, as we look at some of these other movies, right, the critics cannot be serious to think that they outrank, even Iron Man 3 I thought was ridiculous. I didn't like Iron Man 3 at all. It's no way to me that Iron Man 3 is better than Captain America Brave New World. And I think it's ranked pretty high on this list, right? So a lot of people are saying that the villains were weak. And I would say to that the element of a grounded film, you don't always need an over-the-top villain, a villain doing too much, right? The reality of the situation is, in the real world, villains are almost like the good guys, right? They just have an opposite opinion. They're on the other side of the spectrum. And sometimes nobody's the villain, right? So whereas they were saying these villains were weak, what I saw was people who felt they were wronged, who were trying to right wrongs done to them and trying to correct those wrongs. Yeah, there are obstacles in their way, but that's vastly different than, like, say, shadow governments and Illuminati organizations that are just pure evil, want to take over the world for the sake of being evil, right? I don't think that's what makes a compelling villain, if that makes sense, right? And so the villains in these films, whereas they may have appeared weak to some, I think that, with the storyline, them just trying to get done what they were trying to get done for the sake of what they felt was done to them, I thought that made sense, right? I like it when the villain is not so over the top and he's more believable. But at the same time, Captain America Brave New World was able to pull itself back into a superhero movie that was fantastical, right? You get the scene with the Hulk, right? Now, a lot of people were saying, oh, that's the other thing. It's no way that, the Captain America would be able to stand up to the Hulk and fight with the Hulk. But, it's very evident, guys, even in the trailers, you didn't even have to see the movie to know this, that's a vibranium suit Captain America is wearing. And in the fight sequence, right, you get to see, and I don't have to do spoilers, right? I don't think I'm going to have to do any spoilers. If I do, I'll say spoiler alert, give you a chance to get out of here, because this is really a movie that you don't need spoiled until you see it. It is good enough to see, guys. So watch the movie before you watch a spoiler review on it, because I think that's important. I think it's important to let the movie unravel itself, right? And you get the plot and why things were done. That makes the movie better to me, right? But this isn't really a spoiler. It's quite evident that how we understood Wakandan technology is that when a force moves against a Wakanda suit, right, it stores that energy and it could be reused later. It could be, displaced, right? That energy is such, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying, guys, is that let's get back to the page. If I can. But what I'm saying, guys, is that there's a scene where Anthony Mackie, he basically absorbs forces, as we got to see from the Hulk, and he's like, woo, because it's built up so much energy, right? So that's kind of obvious, right? Okay, that's kind of obvious that how that technology in that suit worked. That made it so Anthony Mackie could keep up with or Sam Wilson could keep up with the Hulk, right? No big deal there. They were talking about, oh, he needs to take the super serum. But what was so important about the film was that the fact he was a human, and we were aspiring to be like him, and we could be like him because he was a human. That we couldn't be like Captain America. That we couldn't be like Steve Rogers. We couldn't be like all these fantastical superheroes, right? Great acting with Harrison Ford. It was nothing missing in this movie. The pacing was good, right? Um, if I felt they were holding on to a scene too long, they would it would stop and move on, and I was like, okay, so it's moving pretty good here. So I could see nothing that would make this movie bad. I look at it as a companion to Captain America: Winter Soldier. It's almost identical to that film in many respects. Um, Political thriller, right? Yeah, that's what it is, guys. But what it does is it takes it to the next level by bringing in the big characters, right? Comic book characters that is difficult to do. The other complaint was the green screen CGI and such. I'm not as good at spotting that stuff as some of the people who work in that area, or are good at editing and stuff like that. If it's a good storyline, I believe it was the author Thoreau who wrote "No story is worth telling if it doesn't involve the human heart." So I'm very much, if I'm invested in the characters and the story, the CGI can wing a bit for me, right? I'm not going to be watching it that close. I did think what we got with the Hulk and in the final showdown with Sam Wilson, I thought it was good, right? I thought all of it. I thought even the jet fighter scenes, all of the key moments that involved CGI in the film, I thought it was fair to good, right? I didn't have a problem there at all. I thought the time frame of the Hulk. A lot of people say he wasn't going to be in the movie long. It felt like he was in that movie long to me, maybe because of the energy and of the destruction and the battle itself. I thought it was good, right? So I wouldn't go with what the critics say. I'm very skeptical of critics these days, guys. These critics are hobnobbing with Hollywood. Some of them are being offered jobs with certain studios and directors. They got to keep these relationships. And I'm not knocking how a man makes his living. I've never been the type to get between that and how a man makes his living. But as an audience member, you have to take all that stuff into consideration, that there are things going on behind the scenes with these films that we may not know about. We have, when we're reviewing these things, and we want to try to give as much of an unbiased review as possible. At least I would try to. Now, if I get to be a big reviewer and all that, and I'm at the Hollywood parties and all that, all bets are off. But just something for you audience members to keep in mind. I'm not going to spoil the movie. I think I'm just going to leave it at that, right? That this was a political thriller, right? That took it a step further than Winter Soldier. That the acting was great. The pacing was great. The villains in CGI, some people have problems with them. I don't think it was that bad, right? When you combine everything together with this film. And the plot and storyline I thought was excellent. So no complaints with me in this movie. All things considered, it should be the best movie Marvel ever produced. When you couple everything, right, as a superhero movie, now you guys, you gotta make sure you include all of those things, right? Not just it as a film without taking everything into consideration, right? because if you just say the best superhero film, right? But I'm going by this list. Remember, this list put Captain America Winter Soldier as number one. And in Captain America Winter Soldier, we didn't have any superheroes in that film. These are like real people. You know what I mean? Drugged up superheroes. You had that with the Germans and the Nazis and with methamphetamines in the 1930s. Right? So, performance enhancement drugs. There was a guy just on adrenaline alone picked up a helicopter to save his kid. You know what I mean? Imagine if he did have some drugs to go along with that. So I'm rating this, my review and my critique and my rating is based on considering all those factors. What happens when you have this grounded film and then you introduce these fantastical characters in them? That's not what happened in Winter Soldier. And if you make Winter Soldier number one, on the grounds of the difficulty rating, I'm going to say it's harder to do a film like Captain America Brave New World and put the Hulk in a grounded film. And I thought they pulled that off very well, whereas the challenge wasn't there for Winter Soldier. But that's all I want to say in this video, guys. Wanted to get you guys thinking and talking about this movie and this type of film. Tell me all what you thought about it. What's your ranking? Did you like the film? And do you think it's just bad critics out there now that gave this film a bad rating when clearly it's not? When clearly people are constantly coming out of the film saying, hey, this is a good movie. But psychologically, guys, we can be influenced greatly by others, Even if something is good, if everybody's saying it's bad, we can be susceptible to that. Let's face it too. Some of us just don't have a mind of our own. But in this film, it's clear that the critiques are off. Like I was saying, guys, a lot of people will give bad reviews because of their relationships to other YouTubers and reviewers, their positions with studios and directors. Keep all of that in mind when you're being influenced by these people. That's all I want to say in this video. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to this video. It's as easy as hitting that subscribe button on your screen. May not mean a lot to you, but this is of tremendous value to me. Like the video or dislike the video. Either way, we're interested in your opinion. That's all I want to say. As always, take care of yourselves and each other.